Now we're going to turn on the heat on the pan, bring the temperature up gradually, not too hot, and we're going to start searing the lamb rack on that fat side. And we're going to be cooking it halfway through on one side, rendering the fat down, bringing a beautiful crispy layer to the top. Something that is going to be just to die for. It's going to be delicious in between the scoring. You will really see how it crisps up. And afterwards, when you carve it, you see that beautiful pink meat with a nice layer of crunchy fat. It's going to be mouth-watering. So we want to bring a little bit of heat to the pan. And we're going to season the lamb rack with a tiny bit of olive oil. The oil is going to make sure that everything has a nice contact with the pan, that the heat is distributed evenly, so you don't get hot zones where something is really hotly burned. The oil is going to make it really nice and even. Fat is going to be rendered down. We will get rid of that excess fat. There's some nice heat here in the pan. Gently start like that, render down the fat. Give it a few minutes to slowly really render down, release all those fats, and make sure that it's going to get a really nice and even sear. I'm going to move it to the pan slightly. It's just to make sure that we get an even covering, that the heat distributes evenly. Don't want too much heat. I've turned mine down a little bit. If it starts to steam a little bit too much, reduce your heat or take your pan off the fire. Make sure that it doesn't burn. You want to, as you see, gently and evenly cook that fat down and make it beautiful and crunchy. It's going to be so delicious. Well worth the try and well worth the effort. As you see here, nice browning, all the sides. I'm going to push down a little bit in the middle. We saw that the sides are caramelizing a bit quicker than the outsides because it tenses up. The middle tends to be pulled up and has less contact. So we're going to push down a tiny bit, making sure everything is nice and crisp. We're going to remove the lamb, we're going to remove the excess fat, and we're going to be reducing the heat on the pan. So when we add the butter, it doesn't burn. It's always quite tricky because it's really hot in this pan at the moment and we don't really want to be adding anything sensitive, definitely not like butter or your garlic or your rosemary. So we'll give it a little minute. Pan's cool down a little bit. Nice bit of butter. Deglaze the pan. Go back on the fire. We do want to make sure that we keep some heat in the pan. It can't get too cold. Roast it on one side, roast it on the other, spoon that beautiful butter all over the lamb. That is exactly what we want. We want to get all that flavor in, make it really yummy and delicious all over there. Now it's time to add our garlic, add our rosemary, get those flavors in there. That is what we're going to use for the sauce. We're really preparing now for our sauce. We want to add those butter flavors to the lamb rack that we will finish in the oven, but the rest will all remain in the pan and it will become the sauce that you will learn to love by the end of this dish. And it smells amazing in here. This is something that really makes me happy. It brings a smile on my face when the garlic and the rosemary hit the butter with the lamb roasting. This all together is really what cooking is all about. You know, this is what gets me up in the morning, what keeps you going. What is really why we're in this business. This is it for me. Lamb rack is ready. That goes in the oven. With a little garlic, the rosemary. The lamb is gonna go in the oven as well. Gonna give that 5-6 minutes, and then we're gonna be checking how far we are with the cooking. I expect it then to be around 48-50 degrees. We'll leave it to rest for a little bit before we bring the temperature up to the right amount, so we get a really beautiful cooked pink lamb rack. Bring the lamb back out of the oven. Gonna give this a little feel. Want to see if I can feel how far that has been cooked. This feels really great, to be very honest. We're gonna leave it for a minute. Gonna insert our thermometer. We're gonna check the core. We're gonna see where we're standing. I figure we're gonna be around the 50 degrees. We might need a little touch more in the oven, but we will only know once we have checked. So if you're doing this to the touch, you have to feel at the thicker part of the lamb rack, which in my case is here. And you want to be checking for resistance. You want to see if it bounces back real nicely. At the moment it does, but because it just came out of the oven, it's a little bit misleading sometimes. So you want to give it a rest first. Leave it for a few minutes and then check. See if it feels like you have a great resistance there. Alright, so the lamb has rested a little bit. We're going to be checking the temperature. We want to make sure that we're going to have this perfect. We'll stick it in from the side at the thickest part, and we aim towards the bone, because that's where it will take longest to cook. Now, as I thought, we're at 51 degrees, so we need a tiny touch more on that meat just to have it perfect. This is gonna need 5-6 minutes to rest, and then before we're plating up, we'll carve it beautifully, divide it, put that yummy and delicious Swiss chard, few potatoes, yummy sauce, gonna be delicious. Whilst the lamb is resting, we're gonna do one more try on our temperature. We wanna see where we are at, we wanna see if we are perfect. 58 degrees, 60 degrees, that's what we're looking for here. Want to stick that in to the back of the bone, making sure that we're at the perfect temperature. Want to get it right into the middle, but not too far down. A few more minutes to make sure that we relieve the tension of those muscles, to make sure that it's beautifully rested, that once we cut into it, the juices won't flow out, because we want to keep it inside. We've taken so much care with this lamb to make sure it's perfect that we don't want to ruin it now. We're just going to have to wait a little bit, take our time, and once this is ready to cut, we'll be ready to plate up. Carve into that, in between the bones. Now this should be quite easy, but you have to follow the lines. The bones are running this direction, so you're going to want to be cutting the same direction as the bone. Otherwise you're going to end up on the bottom.